This is Nova with some new information. I do blankets, so I thought I would share them with you. And if anyone has any questions, hit me up and I'll answer them for you. With my first blanket, because I made it really big. It was for a twin size bed, and it's actually would fit not only an extra long twin size bed, but beyond that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and show that to you, and here we go. This blanket I made for my grandson because he loves cats, and I do not like cats. But this is a queen size bed. It goes from edge to edge. It does not go over the edges of the queen size bed. That's kind of the top of it, and this down here is the bottom of it, so you can definitely see how long it is. The blankets that I make are double-sided, and so there's another side to this, and they're put together with crochet. So in this case, my grandson likes rainbows, so I made him a rainbow blanket on the other side. It's a very warm blanket because this is fleece, and because it's double-sided, it's like wearing two fleece blankets at the same time. So as you can see, it's crocheted together. I used a very thin orange and yellow white combination yarn. It turned out okay. I believe that my second blanket turned out way nicer anyway. You kind of put it together when you're done like a quilt. So in this case, I took pieces of thread and I cut little strips, and every so many inches I tied them on. This keeps the blanket together when you wash it, or when people are snuggling with it, or just throwing it on the bed, because you don't want it kind of stretching each other or pulling on each other. It creates a mess when you do that, and your blanket ends up getting kind of tore up, and it's better to just find a way to like quilt them together, so to speak. So that's my first blanket. I'll share with you another blanket here in a minute. This is also one of my earlier blankets, and I feel like there are some things that I could have done better. I enjoyed making this because of the colors and the way it turned out overall. It's for a queen size bed, so it does fit my queen size bed from left to right, and also from top to bottom. So this blanket, as you can see, is butterflies on a yellow background, and a very pretty thick rainbow yarn. The other side is just a solid yellow. I just really wanted something kind of simple. It's very soft. This yarn is extremely soft. It has been washed a couple times, which I'm sure you can tell from the yarn. And other than that, I had a lot of fun making this one. I'm going to show you some of the tools I use so that you can see kind of how I do this. So here are some of the tools I use. Here's an overview, and we'll go over each one really quick. So with my blanket, this butterfly blanket, I used a thicker yarn. You can kind of see where the holes are at and how far they're spaced. So to do the holes on your blanket, again, this is depending on the yarn you're using and how far you want the spacing to be, but I chose to use a cutting wheel. This is my cutting wheel, and you can see that the spacing of the cut is pretty consistent and a little close together, which is good. You want to watch what size holes you're using depending on the yarn that you're using. And you can get these wheels in different sizes. Please be very careful. They are very sharp. You can cut yourself. You need a measuring tool. This is a 6-inch measuring tool that you use for sewing generally. I did use it to measure how far in I wanted my holes to be, and I marked it with pencils. These are sewing pencils. I have a couple of white ones, a gray one, and a blue one. And depending on the color of fabric that you're using, you use these color pencils to draw the line where you want your cutting wheel to go, or the holes that you're going to make for your blankets to come together. If you choose to do any sewing, which I did do on this blanket, I did not quilt it, I sewed it. And you might need a thread puller. This is a thread puller. Mine is really small because I like it really sharp. There's some different color thread. I think I've got a couple blacks, a purple. This is supposed to be a gold. You need pins. Once you lay your blankets out and you cut them to size, you need to pin them together. And there's some pins. This is what I like to use because I use the colors to mark certain things. I may use the colors to mark how far I am from beginning to 1/4 to half. So colored pins have their uses. You need scissors. This is my regular pair of scissors. I do not use this on cloth. This is for paper, tape. It's not for food products. It's just for crafting. These are my cloth shears. They're very nice, heavy, and sharp. And I only use them on cloth. Next, I have 3 sizes of crochet needles. Crochet needles, they're different. They have hooks on the end of them so that you can pull your yarn through itself and hook it together, make a loop, and pull it through again. So that's a little different than knitting. Knitting, you use 2 long sort of rods or sticks. I can't knit. I was never able to learn, but I did learn how to crochet. I've made a few things. Anyways, the first one is a 1.5 millimeter. You can always see your size there on the flat section. Unless you're doing something really small, you really don't need one that small. Generally speaking, this size, which is 5 millimeter, which is the blue one, and a 4.25 millimeter, which is the orange one, are good, or something in that range. These are your hole punches. This hole punch makes very, very small holes. The bad thing about this hole punch is that you have to go through your fabric, mark where you want the holes to be punched, and punch through your fabric where you want each hole. It's not as fast and efficient as the cutting wheel. This one's a little bigger. You can kind of see where the hole punch is. Same thing. These are manual. They're less expensive than the cutting wheel and not as dangerous if you've got kids around the house. Then I also bought a leather punch, and I bought it because you can make different size holes just by turning your knob. It worked, quite well. The last two things that I use are this mat, which is a 24 by 24 inch mat. You can buy them bigger. They get a little pricey the bigger they get. So I chose this one, and I just basically, when I lay my fabric down on my dining room floor, I put this under it and I start measuring. I also use this for cutting, using the cutting wheel or other tools that might cut through like a bed if you're laying it on your bed, or a table if you've got a really nice table and you don't want to scratch up your table. You can take this and just put it under your fabric and slide it as you do each section. Last is this lovely device. Now, this you use in conjunction with this. You put your fabric on here, and you use this and you put it over your fabric like that, and you can use it to measure where you want your lines or where you want to use your cutting wheel. It came in quite handy for me. Again, it's 24 inches, so it matches the mat, and you just slide it through the fabric. You have to be very careful because you don't want to move your fabric as you slide this through your fabric. You do need to put pressure on it as you cut so that your two items don't wiggle or move when you push that cutting wheel down the line. So this is how you do that. This is a plunger handle. So what you do is you spray it with water. There's my spray bottle of water. You are going to need to put some pressure. Try and center it, but you don't have to, I guess. It just depends on you and what you want to do. You push down. And these little levers, you push them down and they grab. what's under them. Once you're done, that's what it should look like. You should be able to pick it up, push down on it as you need to, adding pressure, and it will not or should not come apart. Those are the tools that I use to make a blanket.